Okay, so for this tutorial, first you're going to need some foil. The width of my foil actually covers 4 clips and maybe 2 on either side if you wanted, but I'm just going to keep it to 4. So all of mine are the same width, and then they go down this length to make sure that all the hairs come in and I don't go over it at all. And I've done as many as I needed them. I've basically, whatever extensions I have that add up to 4, that's how many I've done, if you understand what I mean. Obviously you also need your extensions. If you're dyeing them, I'd kind of recommend having a blonde colour like this, colour 613. My extensions are quite thin because this is my first ever set of extensions, so I decided to get a thin packet that was pretty cheap, just because I didn't want to spend a load of money on extensions if I didn't know whether or not I was going to wear them. Have already come clipped. If yours are the type where you have to sew them in yourself, I'd recommend dyeing them and then sewing them on. You then need tint brushes if you have any. If you don't, that's fine, but then you just definitely need to make sure that you have gloves. I'm also going to have a comb. Obviously you're going to need your hair dye. These are just some blue hair dyes. Obviously if you're not dyeing your extensions blue, then they don't have to be blue. This isn't a strictly, you know, if you're dyeing hair blue, then this is what you do tutorial. You can use whatever hair dye that you want, even if it's like brown or whatever. You're then going to need gloves. Even if you are using a tint brush, you kind of want to definitely want to protect your hands, and maybe even wear an old scrap top that you're not really too bothered about getting dirty. So I'm going to be turning extensions this colour into this colour. These are the first ones I did. Sorry, the light's on it differently. So I kind of tested it out to make sure that it wasn't too streaky, and I'm pretty happy with the results, so I'm going to carry on. Okay, so here we are on my bathroom floor. Basically you want to be somewhere where if you do spill any hair dye, you want to be able to clear it up. And let's get started. Okay, so first off I'm going to get started with if you are using a bottle like this. Most hair dyes do come like this, and they're the type that you have to mix together when they're not, you know, a coloured hair dye like mine is here. So once you've mixed it together, what I would recommend with using this is doing it all over it, like in this squiggly motion, right? And then taking your gloves and kind of spreading it out if you don't have a tint brush. If you do have a tint brush, you can then spread out like that. Same goes with any bottle like this. What you could also do with bottles like this is actually spray it into some sort of container you may have, and then use it with a tint brush if you do prefer to do it that way. Okay, so with the method that I'm going to be using pots like this. So I'm going to be using a tint brush. This tint brush is from Manic Panic, and I'm going to be using this mostly because it fits into the pot nicely. Once you've got your gloves on, you can just take your tint brush and start painting. You can see that I'm holding the top of my extension so that it doesn't fall down. This is where it comes in handy if you're actually sewing on your own hair clips, because you don't really want to dye your hair clips. Some people leave a gap between the hair clip and where they start dyeing it, but I'd rather have blue hair clips than a random blonde patch at the top of my head. So once you've done one layer and you don't think it's streaky at all, you can then turn it over. If your hair is thicker than this, then you'll definitely want to turn it over and make sure that you do a lot, and make sure that you have quite a thick coat of hair dye. Any blonde patches you see peeking through, you just want to go over them and kind of blend it all. Before you do start dyeing it, by the way, you want to make sure that you've combed out your extensions so you don't get any knots, and when it's all washed out you don't have any areas that are kind of randomly still blonde. Help it be as even as possible. You also want them to be as straight as possible. I mean, if you do have wavy hair extensions, that's fair enough, But say if you have straight ones, I'd recommend keeping them straight before dyeing them. When coming onto my clips, I'm lifting them up and dyeing the bits underneath, which you can't see. Once you think you've done, you might want to kind of lift some patches to see if any bronze comes through and to kind of rub it in a bit. Also want to make sure that you've completely got your ends unless you do want blonde or whatever colour you have ends. So that no areas are more covered than others, because them areas will still be darker than the rest once washed out. Unless you kind of want a stripy effect, then you want to sort that out. I'm just going to take them back up to the top. I'm then going to fold down the top, fold down the bottom, and then fold it in half. If you so wished, you could be completely not gentle and scrunch it all up, but I just kind of want to keep mine straight, make sure that it stays as even as possible while it's developing. If for whatever reason you are low on foil, you completely can wait for this bit to develop, wash it out and then use the foil again. But I'm just going to do mine all at the same time because I have enough foil. Two, so I can then put two next to it. I can either put two of these or two single ones. When I dye the hair, I like to kind of go down with the hair, so the clips are up this end, so I'm going down this way. This prevents it from getting knotty and just a pain in the bum. I don't know why I like to do it, I think it's just more helpful if you do it this way. So I don't know if you could see the first time, but basically when I'm doing these clips, I'm just lifting up the clip here and then going underneath. Okay, so you can see now that I have a two clip here and two one clips, and that's because the width of my tin film is able to fit in 4. I could probably fit in 5 if I wanted to, but I don't. So that's what I'm basically going to be doing. If there's a 3, I'm going to add in a 1. If there's a 2, I'll have another 2 or 2 ones, that kind of thing. So now I'm going to fold it over and at the side, and then again down the middle. Okay, so this is just some random pink bit that I decided to dye because I want to add it in. Yeah, so basically you just repeat brushing it and then flipping it over and wrapping up in the foil. You then want to leave it on for however long the instructions tell you to, if it's a permanent hair dye. Hair dyes like blues and pinks and things, they're semi-permanent, so you can pretty much leave them in for as long as you would like. It won't really damage the hair, and the longer you leave it in, the best it will stay, except for you won't really be washing extensions too much, so that's not too much of a big deal. But yeah, basically you then want to wash it out with whatever instructions your extensions tell you to do. It's usually in, I think it's like cold water, and then let it air dry. So yeah, just do whatever suits you. and then you're done. For those of you who are interested, this colour is called Carnation Pink by the Riche Directions. And the colour that I've been dyeing the rest of my extensions and the colour that my hair is now is called Turquoise, also by Directions.